So it's having a look and having a good think, looking at yourself. Where are you? You can't move forward until you know where you are. So and then choose the one that you are going to be able to assert within the week, that you are going to be able to, that's going to make the biggest impact that you think you would be able to. So it's maybe not, going and challenging your boss. Let's go and challenge my boss tomorrow, if it's your boss, or, having it out with some family member is probably not the place to start. Sort yourself out, focus on you, go and thrive, go and do really well, and then you're in a position where you can really make a difference, where you're not trying to chip away from your low position with the measly things and tools that you've got at that time. Build yourself massive, strong, rich, whatever. And then with those resources that are going to be so much more powerful and useful to those people, you can make a real difference. You get burnout, aren't you? You're going to get burnout.
I lost all sense of self when I was trying to help people that weren't coming with me. They were the wrong people. You can't set boundaries with the wrong people. You can set boundaries with the right people. But when it's the draining energy, and if you let it get too far, like if I just set boundaries, and I did set boundaries a few years ago with my dad, and I was able to manage that energy. But it got to the stage where I overgave, and I actually forgot about my boundaries, and it got so bad that I was so depleted that I had to walk away. So if you actually set a boundary early, you're not going to have that kind of conflict, or you won't have to get to that stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do we set boundaries? So I've got some things to think about. So we talk about this so much. It's like the cure to life, basically. Self-reflection. And there's lots of ways we can do self-reflection. So journaling's a great way, meditation's a great way, doing certain breathwork techniques, doing mindfulness, just being curious about feelings and thoughts.
My favorite is talking to yourself. It's the most sanest thing you can do is ask yourself questions.
Yeah.
And your unconscious mind will answer you back if you ask them questions.
Yeah. So if you don't seem to have boundaries, or maybe you don't know if you've got boundaries or not, maybe you're overwhelmed, or you're getting resentful, or you feel like you put others first all the time and you're the bottom of the pile, what you need to do is start with self-reflection. Because first of all, it's like, do I have boundaries? Sit down, see if you can write down what your current boundaries are, and when you last asserted them, or when you've had to assert them. And are they in line with your values now? Do you agree with those boundaries? Are they strong enough? Do you need more boundaries elsewhere? And it's difficult to just go out in the world and set a billion boundaries there. Like, you're like, oh no, I've let everybody walk all over me right now. I'm going to have all the boundaries, that in itself would be overwhelming. What you can do though is have a look at where you are now. What boundaries are you able to assert? Where, because you will have boundaries somewhere in your life. You're not a complete doormat, nobody is. Do your existing ones align with your values? Do you even know what your values are? What is important to you? What limits have you got? Personally, it could be time constraints. It could be how long you can spend doing certain things, because it drains your energy. So, for example, some people need alone time. So if your social battery's drained, do you have to have a certain amount of time to recharge that? So it's having a look and having a good think, looking at yourself. Where are you? You can't move forward until you know where you are. And then just think, what boundaries would a person who had a lot of respect for themselves have? Exactly. And write those down. Or if you've already got an image of yourself, if you've been on a journey with us through all of these, perhaps you've already visualized the person you're becoming. Maybe you're already working on that. So what values, what boundaries would they have? And write them down. And then choose one. Choose one that you can assert in the near future. So it's no good choosing one that you're not going to, I'm not going to see that person for 3 months. So you choose the one that you are going to be able to assert within the week, that you are going to be able to, that's going to make the biggest impact that you think you would be able to. So it's maybe not, going and challenging your boss. Let's go and challenge my boss tomorrow, if it's your boss, or, having it out with some family member is probably not the place to start. But look in your life, there will be somewhere where someone's taking the mick a little bit. Someone's taking all your time, and it's not somebody. If we go for if you choose boundaries with people, and those people are like high stakes people, it's your boss, it's your family members, it's your best friend, and yes, you should have boundaries with them. But if you are fearful of losing people, and you're only just starting to set boundaries, they're probably not the ones to start with.
Exactly.
Start small, but ones that are going to have a real impact,
Exactly.
either on your time or your mental health.
It doesn't necessarily have to be people, as I've said already. It's like, it can be situations. So start with the thing, like, if you're ask yourself, like, that's a self-reflection. What way is your energy? Is your energy drained going to these family functions, or this work function, or this party? Start with that. Say no to going to places that aren't in alignment with you. Because that's an easy one, because you can actually just cancel something and just say no over the phone to somebody. I'm not going to attend that. You might get some pushback, but at the end of the day, that's an easier one to kind of, to start with.
Yeah,
And stop going to stop doing things that are draining you. Stop saying yes to everything that, every little thing just because you feel obligated. If it's out of alignment, if it's draining your energy, start to say no to these things. You can stay at home if you don't want to do this thing, and where we feel obligated, especially to go to these certain family functions, knowing, and even Christmas as well, going home for Christmas and everyone's fighting and arguing, and like you're drained because you're in that energy. Just because it's Christmas and just because it's family does not mean you have to be in that energy. You get to choose the energy you want to be in, and you can say no to situations as well as people.
Yeah, definitely. So also, when we've decided, let's say it is a boundary with a person, it might just be not saying yes to the next party or whatever, but it's someone you're going to have to speak to either over the phone or in person. How do you communicate that clearly? So you need to use, you need to use I statements. So I am doing this, or I don't want. If you go into the blame game, that's when people are going to get their back up, and people might get their back up anyway, but they're much less likely if you're owning the choice. You're not saying, I'm not doing that because I've been doing loads of that stuff for you and I haven't got any time for myself. That's playing the blame game. You chose to. So it's taking responsibility in that moment, that for the choice that you're making, because that is the best thing for you. Exactly. And not feeling like you have to over explain, really. You don't have to explain it. You don't need to apologize. You can just state, I won't be going to that party. Thank you for the invite.
Because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Simple, short and sweet. And that's it. We think we have to over-explain ourselves. Well, we don't. You know what I mean? No, it's no one's business why we don't want to go anywhere, or why we don't want to do this, or why we don't want to be around people. It's no one's business. Say no as a full sentence. Bye. Block. Sorry.
And I am probably a bit still like this, actually. I often feel the need to apologize, So I'd say something like, oh, sorry, I can't come because I'm visiting my mum this weekend. And it's like, what are you actually saying there? I'm sorry, I have to visit my mum. Am I sorry that I want to visit my mum? Am I sorry that I have my own plans? Should I be sorry that I have my own plans? And it's the same as we've been saying about language is important. And so even though it seems insignificant that we say, oh, sorry, but I've got this to do, You are in that moment putting yourself on a lower priority. You're saying, I have to apologize because I have needs and wants and plans.
Yeah.
So we should really avoid I think sometimes we think we're being polite, but actually words are important, and we need to move away from saying that. I'm guilty of that, actually. So that's something I need to tell myself as well.
Yeah, and that comes down to the self-worth part of this. Is like, we're disrespecting our worth by not owning our voice. We're disrespecting our worth by saying sorry for not wanting to do something, or because it's not in alignment with us. You know, we're apologizing for something. You only should apologize if you do something wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. And this is owning your worth. We think, our voice doesn't matter because we don't feel worthy enough. We feel like that we shouldn't speak up because we don't feel worthy enough. And this all boils down to childhood again and being told to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? And it's all about owning ourselves and respecting ourselves enough to just speak our truth. And like, that's it. It's our responsibility to own our own shit, but it's to own our own worth as well.
Yeah. Now, self-worth is such a big thing, because if you had high self-worth, you just wouldn't be throwing yourself under the bus. You just wouldn't be, you can be kind if you've got high self-worth, but you're not going to be burning yourself out, setting yourself on fire like some kind of martyr for somebody else to your own detriment. You just wouldn't, because you would value yourself and your time and your needs and your wants enough that the boundaries would be there. So alongside actually communicating boundaries, deciding what they are and communicating, you need to do some work on your own worth and understand that, really. And I think this is my problem with niceness. Let's get a little bit onto niceness. Niceness is not something we should strive for, because nice, to me, nice and kind are different. Kind is doing something for the good of the act, because it aligns with your values, because it makes you feel good to do something kind for somebody, to help somebody out. Okay, nice is attached to an expectation. It's either an expectation on how you will be viewed for doing it, or it's an expectation that they will also go over the top for you in when you need it. And these are usually I've talked about this before, secret contracts that we make with people. So you might have a coworker and you might go above and beyond all the time. And then one day you're like, I need some help. You don't communicate you need some help. You hope they just recognize that you need help, because you've always recognized when they've needed help. You've already always jumped to their rescue. So you're sat there going, somebody help me, but I'm not going to ask for help. And then when they don't, because you haven't communicated, then you get resentful. Like, I've done all these things. Why is nobody helping me? And I'm speaking from experience. So it's not from a place of judgment. I have been in that place where I'm like, I wouldn't ask for help, but then I would be resentful that nobody helped me, So we shouldn't strive to be nice. We should strive to just be kind always. Now, being kind always can mean choosing kindness for yourself in the moment.
Exactly.
Which is different to nice. Nice, we can say we're being nice to ourselves. I just don't like the word nice. It really gets me. Can you see? I'm like, nice. So we should strive to be kind, not nice. And kindness includes us as one of the people to be kind to. Now, being consistent, and you talked about this, I think, just earlier, didn't you? So once you've set the boundary, you've decided what it is, and you've communicated it clearly with I statements, keeping it brief without lots of explanations. You don't need to explain yourself. You have to be consistent with that. So being consistent with that might be when you get when you might say that I'm not doing, I don't know, overtime, and you're asked, you say no, you don't give an excuse, you use an I statement, you get on with your life. Then the next week they ask you to do the same thing, and then you're like, then it weakens your boundary. Now it might, maybe one day you want to choose to do some overtime and one day you don't. But if your firm boundary is going to be you're not going to do something, and then sometimes when they ask you to do that thing, you do, and then other times you don't, it's confusing for them. They don't know what your boundary
It's
is
misleading.
because you're not consistent, isn't it?
But it's misleading, and that's the thing. Like, you have to be assertive. You can't let somebody, take advantage of you again after you've told them that you can't be around their energy, and that you need to respect your own energy. And then they keep coming back in, keep trying to put a toe back in. And that's when you have to block these people, is because they're not respecting what you said. You're like, I'll be in touch when I'm ready. I'll be in touch. I need some space. But they still infringe on your space. No. Go away. Stop. Sorry, I'm an advocate for blocking. I'm sorry. Well, for years we've been bred to believe that you have to be mannerly. And no, not mannerly. I'm all for manners. But we've been bred to believe that we have to put other people's needs first, that it's selfish to put our own needs first. So we have to accommodate people because it's mannerly. No. If somebody's wrecking your head, and disrespecting you, you don't have to respond to them just because it's polite. Or if a stranger texts you and starts, talking, you don't have to respond to them just because it's polite. If you don't want to correspond with somebody because you have you can feel their energy through the phone and it's not for you, you have every right to block that number. You don't have to correspond with somebody just out of politeness. You have every right to own your own energy and take a step back or block that person if needs be. Because before I started blocking people, which is I sound like I'm blocking everyone, but like I mean my ex and stuff like that. I was like, I can't block him because we have history together, or I can't block him in case he'll do something again. And it's just like, no, block the fucking shit out of it, and he will go away forever. And it works. Like, so we don't have to accommodate an ex or a toxic family member or anyone for that matter, just because we think we need to, because it's we're obligated to, because it's polite to, or we have history together. I've known them so many years, even though they abused me, I should still have them in my life. No. Block the shit out. Having that person on your social media or in your energy in any kind is not, they still technically have control of you. So, when it comes to people like that, you have every right to actually walk away completely.
Absolutely, yeah. And when you're asserting boundaries, perhaps with people that are difficult, or just like if you're new really to communicating your boundaries clearly, you need to make sure that you're concentrating on self-care. So that would also, like, when you're thinking about which boundaries to set, because often if you're a really giving person, except for to yourself, if you're a big people pleaser, you completely forget yourself. You don't even know what you want anymore. You will often find, and this is our people pleasing family, is that whenever your attention is on pleasing others and on their needs and their wants and them seeing you as nice and them seeing you as a good person and then thinking what you're doing is great, when you're in that position, I forgot what I was going to say. You become really indecisive, because everybody, like in my family, that situation I said where we're like, right, what should we have to eat? And everyone's trying to please everyone else. Everyone's trying to mind read everyone else and can't. So they're like, I'm just going to wait and then I'm just going to agree. And that's what, when you're a people pleaser, you end up trying to mind read people on what you think that they want you to say, or what you think they think about you. So when you're trying to make a change, and whenever you try and make any change, make sure you're putting self-care in there. Make sure you're taking the time to give yourself love, compassion, and say those nice things to yourself. Have that bubble bath. Go for the walk in the woods. Take time away from the kids. You are important, and when we're making big changes, it's important that we factor that in, isn't it?
It is. It's really important. And like what you were saying there, just because somebody sends you a message now, not, and you're in a low energy, or you do need to bring in some self-care, you can take time to reply to that message. You don't have to respond to somebody straight away. Or if that person's energy isn't working for you at the moment, you can take that little bit of space. You can take a step back. You can just take that time for yourself to replenish your energy until you are ready to respond.
Yeah. It's put yourself first, isn't it? It's that whole, we always say can't pour from an empty cup, but it's like put your own oxygen mask on first. They say that on planes, don't they?
And it's so true. We can't have, like, if we're depleted by giving every ounce of our energy to other people, we're not going to have the energy to just survive. We don't even have anything left in our cup for ourselves. So that means we're at complete minus below zero, and we're fucked. Like, we just can't help anyone or ourselves anymore. We're just fucked. Like, but if we keep filling our cup up to the top, we give ourselves enough energy for ourselves, but enough energy to help so many other people, and then we can come back before it gets too empty to replenish it again. This is so important to bring ourselves back to our full potential without letting it deplete. Like,
it's a bit like, in some ways, what you were saying about, people trying to watching things on the news or whatever, and like worrying about things that are going on, and you're in the world or whatever, all these terrible things that you haven't really got control over to change, really. I mean, you could be an activist, but still limited amount of change. And what you said is, it's like, sort yourself out, focus on you, go and thrive, go and do really well, and then you're in a position where you can really make a difference, where you're not trying to chip away from your low position with the measly things and tools that you've got at that time. Build yourself massive, strong, rich, whatever. And then with those resources that are going to be so much more powerful and useful to those people, you can make a real difference. If you're drained and there's nothing left of you, what good are you?
That's it. And that's the boundary with the new social media things that you're watching, as you were saying there. If your energy is drained, if you're getting upset and angry watching this stuff, you're depleted. It's the same as being around a negative energy person.
Yeah.
You're depleting your energy. Your cup is going to shatter. And how are you going to be good for yourself or anyone unless you turn that off? So set that boundary there. Stop watching those things. Stop being in those environments. Stop letting that energy seep into you. And, fill your cup up and fight it. Become your best self. Then go out into the world and try and change it. You know what I mean? It's that simple. And it really is. You know what I mean? I don't watch any kind of news anymore. I don't know what's going on in the world. And like, people keep saying, oh, you need to know what's going on. No, you fucking don't. If it's if it's hurting me, I can't help the next person or be a good coach if I'm absolutely depleted watching stuff that emotionally drains me. I can't watch certain TV programs now because it actually affects my energy. It's not just the news. But like, I will be so mindful of what I allow into my aura, because I can't go back to the way I was. When I didn't have boundaries in my life, I almost disappeared completely because I had nothing left in myself. I had so much fear around me. My mental and physical health was deteriorating, and I had no sense of self. I'd lost all direction in my life because I hadn't put in boundaries early on, and then I had to walk away from these people. It got too far. And it took me a long, long time to get to where I am now, by shutting off those things and by setting healthy boundaries. And that's how now I am so respectful of my own worth now, and I'm so respectful of my boundaries now. I won't let any kind of negative energy into my life. But we need to make sure we don't have to get to where I did. Set the boundaries early so that you don't completely deteriorate into nothing and have to spend 2 years getting yourself back up again.
Definitely. Yeah. Don't it's like I ended up in a dark place and in a mess and all that before I made a change, and that's why I wanted to train to be a coach, because I was just like, I just wish people knew what I knew now. Like, you can see people struggling, you're like, I just wish I could gift you that, and then you could see things differently. Yeah.